It is 11:03 on August 24th. This is a special meeting of the members of the State Liquor Authority. Present today in Albany is Chairman Bradley, Commissioner Ford, Deputy Commissioner Licensing Held, and myself, Secretary Donahue. In New York City is General Counsel Riano. The items on today's calendar are 4 requests for summary suspension orders from Counsel's office. And with that, I would turn it over to, the first item is 1940B, Cuscatan Bar Lounge and Grill, Inc.
Perfect. Counsel Sarah will be presenting for Counsel's office. Please go ahead.
Good morning. I'm making the application for an emergency summary order of suspension pursuant to SAPA, Section 4013. Cuscatan is known as it's a known gang hangout of MS-13. Giving a brief history, there have been multiple violent attacks. This is licensed as a tavern with full service full on-service premises. Getting into the violence, since they were licensed in January, there have been numerous police visits for assault and other disturbances. January and March, there were fights on the premises. An additional fight in March. There were 4 to 5 males that were in a fight, and an individual who tried to break up the fight was hit in the face with a bottle. April, there was another fight, and a security guard was issued a summons with no license. July, 3 males attacked a victim with 2 baseball bats, as well as a pipe, and the victim sustained a broken arm and lacerations. And then earlier in August, there was assault, which in the 2nd degree. This past weekend, on to the present, there was an inspection with the SLA, Suffolk County Police Department, as well as Department of Homeland Security. As a result of this inspection last weekend, there were multiple arrests, one for possession of marijuana, and another patron was arrested on a bench warrant. The SLA inspector noted no food in the kitchen, no prep area, there's no food to be sold on the premises, as well as no visuals of food utensils, menus, or plates. There were no books or records available for inspection, including beer and liquor receipts. Security guard that was employed was not licensed. The premises also did not have proprietary security guard license or a contract with a security guard vendor. There was inspection of the bar, and they found untaxed and illicit alcohol. There was also a fire extinguisher that had not been inspected since March, and there was an illegal side bolt on the rear entrance fire door. There are 9 summonses issued by the fire marshal for building code violations. These building violations are terrible. Their interior renovations did not have a current permit. There were electrical hazards with hanging exposed wiring. There was unlit exterior exit. There was improperly vented hot water heater. Restroom vents were not working. There were side bolts on the rear exit door. And most importantly, there were undersized and notch girders in the basement that had no footings. More simply, this can be understood that if people are not going to be assaulted or exposed to violence here, the building will collapse around them. Further, the building is condemned, so there really should not be a current license, because if the building is not safe, there's no way patrons should be allowed in to consume alcohol.
Yeah, Counsel Walls, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to ask, do we know when the building was condemned?
This past weekend, with all the summonses issued by the fire marshal and the town building inspector.
And Council Walls, it's my understanding, on top of the fact that we only licensed this place, I believe in January of
In
this year.
January of this year, yes.
And on top of the fact that there's been a pattern of violence over the last 8 months.
Correct.
At this point, we now have a situation where, upon the inspection of this weekend, which obviously resulted in a number of different problems, the most serious, as you've just noted, on top of the fact that there's so few laws that this place is actually following, it's possible that the floor could collapse while people are
Floor
standing
could certainly collapse at any moment.
at any moment.
Correct.
On top of everything else, that's obviously a problem. And that's why the building was
On top of
condemned.
the violence, there are serious building violations.
Perfect. I don't know if the commissioner or the chairman have any questions on this particular summary.
How much alcohol, untaxed or illicit alcohol was recovered or discovered?
I'm not sure. I could look into the matter.
No, that's all right. I have nothing else. What's that noise
Can we
down there?
get the electronics just away just in case? That was a problem
Are
last.
you guys hearing that noise?
No.
No.
Jack?
Sounds like a fan.
Yeah, I-
All right, it stopped. Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
So, Counselor, you said that this is another MS-13 hangout. I didn't see that anywhere in the memo.
Yes. Yes. That's why DHS was there, as well as Suffolk County Police, in addition to the authority.
But none of these charges are related to that gang. This is based on complaints that we received from the PD.
Correct.
All right. In light of the fact that there have been, 5 fights since January, since this place was just licensed this year, including another one where a victim was attacked with a baseball bat by 3 individuals.
And a pipe.
Yeah. Licensed since only January, no food is required at all times, no correct permits from the town of Brookhaven, no books or records, licensed security guard, untaxed and illicit alcohol on premises, so forth and so on, and beyond all else, the building is now condemned, so no one should actually be in it because it's unsafe to be in. So I've voted for an immediate summary suspension.
I'm going to vote for immediate summary suspension as well. It's obvious that the public health, safety, and welfare could be seriously affected by this place continuing to operate. They're barely following any laws, as council pointed out, so I'll vote to summarily suspend.
Thank you, Council Walls.
Thank you.
Next item is,
Well, hold on, before we get going. Donald, are you standing next to a microphone or something down there?
No.
are you hearing that static?
Now it just stops. So
I'm not hearing-
whatever you...
Sounds like a mic is wide open or something like that.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it, Donald, you got it.
Fan must have come on above it or something like that. Who knows?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is 1940C, Desano Inc.
Thank you. I believe Council Walls is presenting this as well. And Council Walls, as you get ready, just to help the members as well as yourself, I think with this particular matter, obviously we have the most recent incident, which I want you to get into in a moment, but I think some of the history of this and the background of this place, especially this particular licensee, would be very instructive for the members to hear in order to tell the story.
Okay. This licensee was granted his license in June of this year, so a mere 2 months ago. He has a record with local police, known for his character. The board granted him his license in June, even though he had blemished history, criminal record for warehousing alcohol without a proper license or permit. The local police were opposed to his license, given the sale of alcohol without a permit. The full board granted his license And in granting his license, noted his criminal background, possession of a slot machine, resisting arrest, creating hazardous physically offensive condition. We gave him this clean slate in granting him the license. However, in last week, there was an SLA inspection along with local police where we observed a patron of this establishment consuming alcohol and alcoholic beverage in the rear doorway in violation of their off-premises license, consumption license. As a result of this inspection last week, the clerk was arrested as well as as a licensee. There were hundreds of counterfeit New York State tax stamped cigarettes. At the time of the inspection, the clerk was found disposing of a significant amount of these cigarettes as the police were entering. She was arrested for obstruction of government administration. The police also observed 3 cases of Ariana Chardonnay with an alcohol limit of 13.5% in violation of their AX license. As of the date of the inspection, 8/18, there were a total of 33 charges between the licensee and the clerk. The licensee was charged with 16 counts of penal law, 83 packages of cigarettes with fraudulent New York State tax stamped cigarettes, and 5 violations of the ABC law. The clerk also had multiple counts of, she was charged with multiple counts of the penal law, as well as, again, 155 packs of untaxed, fraudulently untaxed cigarettes.
Council Walls, it's my understanding in the general sense is that on top of the fact that we have an individual who had significant history with this agency, we tried to give them a clean slate. Obviously, I believe only, 2 to 3 months ago.
Correct.
We now have
Less than 3 months.
Less than 3 months
Yes.
ago. And so we now have a situation where we have an individual observed drinking in the doorway of the premises when they have an off-premises license.
Correct.
And upon the police and inspectors going into this establishment, we find that the clerk starts to try to dispose of illegal
Correct.
cigarettes.
Actively disposing as the police were entering with the SLA inspectors.
And there's hundreds of these
Hundreds.
fraudulently taxed.
Hundreds of these fraudulently taxed
Right.
cigarettes.
And it's my also understanding that we are in the process of continuing to do additional investigations on this establishment with the
Correct.
Department of Tax and Finance.
So correct, the Department of Tax and Finance, as well as the New York Cigarette Strike Force, New York State Cigarette Strike Force, because we are uncertain of how long this has been going on. And the local police are still watching this establishment. It is clear from the get-go that this licensee had no intention of changing his character. He just wanted the license to perceive everyone that he was doing this legitimately, but nothing has changed.
Just so to note to the members, was brought to licensing attention yesterday that the corporation, according to the Department of State website, has been dissolved since 2011. So when he came before you, he had been aware of that information.
Okay.
But we were not aware of it. We did receive a filing receipt, however, it's not.
So then his application filing also contains significant mistakes.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. How many, you say hundreds, are we at the 600 of counterfeit cigarettes, packs of cigarettes, or?
Approximately,
Was it cartons? What is it? What are we talking about?
packages. So not
250? Around 250.
250 approximately.
Okay. And this is, he had previously been convicted of doing this under the penal law, right?
Yes. As well as untaxed liquor.
Yeah, we do try to give people a second chance,
And there was just also to note there was an unauthorized trade name in his prior history.
Okay. I don't have anything.
You ready to vote?
Yes, sir. Well, based on a couple of things. Number one, obviously, we find out in his filings that he outright lied to us. When we extended him some mercy and offered him a second chance, apparently he had no intention of changing So I guess a zebra doesn't really change its stripes too much. So I'm going to vote to summarily suspend this license, and we'll take it from there.
I'm gonna vote to summarily suspend as well. We gave him a second chance in June and he blew it up in 2 months. He clearly lacks the character and fitness to have a alcohol license at this time, and given his complete disregard for the law, it's completely unpredictable whether he would actually ever follow the law. So I think that the health, safety, and welfare of the community is certainly in jeopardy with him of having or continuing to have a liquor license. So I'm gonna summarily suspend it.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Council Walls.
Next item is 1940D, it's Capitan Blanco LLC.
Council Coffer.
Good morning. Council's office is here to submit to the board for consideration of an emergency summary order of suspension pursuant to SAPA. We make this recommendation in light of a joint operation on August 19th between the SLA, Suffolk County Police Department, Department of Homeland Security agents, and local agencies as part of a sweep targeting establishments that host members of the MS-13 gang. Homeland Security identified 2 individuals present at Capitan Blanco on August 19th, whom they believed to be MS-13 members, and detained them. This establishment's license should be summarily suspended for the health and safety of the public. First, this establishment is, upon information and belief by the police and Homeland Security, frequented by gang members of MS-13. Secondly, this...
If I could just direct you to the liquor violations that they have a long history of violence and violations of the ABC law, which is my understanding about why our investigators were there. Is that correct?
They have... I believe the investigators were there because of the MS-13 affiliation this weekend with the sweep. There is a focal point charge, which I will go through.
That's what I'm concerned about, the focal point charge.
Okay.
Why don't we focus on that?
Sure. And just to note, with the focal point charge, we're in the process of trying to obtain the police reports. So most of these have not been referred to the SLA.
Okay.
So with the focal point charge, Capitan Blanco is a focal point for police attention, nuisance, and a drain to police resources. There is, according to the Suffolk County Police Department, there is a sustained pattern of noise, disturbance, misconduct, and disorder that occurs here. According to the Suffolk County Police, they responded to 35 incidents at the premises in 2015, 39 incidents in 2016, and 9 incidents in 2017 through August 5th. Over 10 were reported assaults since 2015. There have been fights, allegations of fights, assaults, public urination, harassments, loud noise, patrons being brought in an ambulance to the hospital, attacks in the bathroom, lewd sexual conduct, grand larceny, and robbery. And just in the past 3 weeks, there were 2 separate incidences of alleged robberies as patrons left Capitan Blanco and were followed out and punched and kicked and robbed of their wallets and chains ripped off from their necks. And one of the victims was told not to move or he would be stabbed. So there's a lot of police attention being given to this establishment.
Has that been brought? Excuse me. Has that been brought before us up until now? I mean, I'm looking at 35 incidents in 2015, 39 in 2016, and 9 incidents in 2017 through August. Has this been brought to us attention by the police department before now?
No, it hasn't. We only had, the adverse history just contains 1 disorderly premises charge for an altercation in 2014 and failure to post pregnancy and prohibited sale signs. and counts of failure to comply with health regulations and gambling. And 2016, they pled a conditional no contest to failure to comply with maximum occupancy, visibility, and health regulations. So we are trying to get the police records for all these incidences.
So the incidents you're talking about, the police department failed to report them to us, to your knowledge.
Right.
Did they find anything in the inspection that they did in
Yeah.
last weekend?
Yes, they certainly did. They found that a host of safety and health violations of local regulations and ABC laws. So I would like to note that Mr. Blanco, the licensed principal, was present on August 19th during the investigation. And Investigator Charles Travali personally observed numerous violations of the ABC law. First is that the premises is non-bona fide and fails to conform with his application. Investigator Travali observed that there was no food for sale, no kitchen, no food preparation area, no utensils, no plates, and no menus. Also, it is non-bona fide because the Patchogue Village Fire investigator that night condemned and closed the bar for unsafe conditions. The fire marshal took issue with the bar being overcrowded, having faulty and unsafe electrical wiring, and having deficient fire extinguishers. Also observed by Investigator Travali was DJ equipment and a permanent DJ booth, even though the method of operation states that Capitan Blanco would only use recorded music and a jukebox. Also, the construction of the DJ booth constitutes an unauthorized alteration. The bar had one pool table with an open floor area, presumably for dancing. This was not stated on their method of operation. Investigators Travali also observed 2 security guards, which again was in contradiction to their method of operation. There was also numerous ABC law violations, including exceeding the maximum occupancy, using an unauthorized trade name, obstructed visibility, books and records violations, contaminated liquor bottles, purchase from an unauthorized source, untaxed liquor, and failure to keep a roster of security guards. And there were 9 summonses issued by the fire investigator as well, which he closed the building, indicating a severe and imminent threat to the public safety. And those summonses included overcrowding, electrical extension cords were being used as permanent wiring, obstructed fire extinguishers located behind the bar, electrical outlets with no GFI protection located on the sink behind the bar. There was an electrical device held to the ceiling by Scotch tape. There were 3 fire extinguisher tags that were expired, and power strips were overloaded. And just one more thing to note about the August 19th investigation. There was also an investigator from the Workers' Compensation Enforcement Unit, and he issued a stop work order and closed the premises due to an excess of $25,000 in workers' compensation penalties. So
Okay.
that's, yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Good to vote?
No. Yep. I think that, well, it's an MS-13 hangout. Two recent arrests were MS-13 members, no food as required, complete drain on resources, non-bona fide. At this point, since the fire department closed them, they closed them, correct, for unsafe conditions? Is that
Correct.
correct? All right,
Yes.
so they're shut down now, including several unsafe electrical wiring conditions. Suffolk County Police Department reports, 35 incidents in 2015, 39 in 2016, 9 so far this year, and plus workers' comp has issued a stop work order. So we're the last stop on this trip here, so I vote to suspend their license.
I'm going to vote to suspend as well. It's obvious that this licensee has accomplished something I haven't seen before, which is pretty much violate every section of the ABC law in one way or another. The building has been condemned by the fire department. They have karaoke, DJ, no food prep or kitchen, which leads me to believe that they've also lied to us on their application. and they're clearly a drain on police resources. So based on that, I think they're a clear threat to the public health, safety, and welfare of the community, and I vote to summarily suspend.
Thank you.
Thank you,
The
counsel.
Next item I have is 1940E, GMB Group LLC.
Counsel Marsico.
Good morning. Council's office is coming before the members requesting that you issue a summary order of suspension as to Expressions Bar, which is located on Boston Post Road in the Bronx. This premises was a subject of a disciplinary hearing in front of Judge Piken. It concluded, the judge rendered her decision in August. That decision is coming before the members. It was scheduled to go before the members on August 30th. In that decision, Judge Piken sustained 2 charges. One was that this location is a focal point of police attention, and also that the licensee has failed to supervise the premise. The members can read the decision. It's Exhibit 2. Basically, the judge said that this has been a continuing drain on the resources of the 4-6 precinct, which is a very busy precinct, covers a very large area. This particular bar, we put photographs and evidence, is right smack in the middle of a residential area full of private homes, and the patrons are causing noise and disturbances directly in front of the bar. Also, the patrons go across the street to a Walgreens parking lot and continue creating noise and disturbances by fighting, being overly intoxicated, etc. The licensee principal, Mr. Morrison, testified at the hearing. I was particularly concerned by his lackadaisical attitude to the occurrences that were occurring. He basically testified that, he would just receive the summonses from the police and give them to his lawyer. He never questioned his guards about what was going on, even if the assaults were going out in front of the premises. He never had any questions for anybody. He would just merely be, the person who passes the summonses on to his lawyer. So the individual is continuing to supervise the premise, pending the decision by the members. And so then counsel's office was contacted by the special operations lieutenant who assisted in the hearing to tell us that there was a dispute with a security guard on August 8th, and the patron apparently got angry for whatever reason and fired a shot in the air in this highly residential area, which in and of itself is very dangerous.
Was that inside or outside? Excuse me.
It was directly in front of. A lot of these incidents, for whatever reason, they seem to come to the attention of the police outside, and there's not really a clear connection being made to what happened inside. But supposedly this dispute was between an employee in the vicinity of the front of the premise and this patron. So there's flying bullets in this residential area, and in addition, we agreed with the lieutenant to do a joint inspection, and Investigator Stravali inspected the premise yesterday with the police department, and he found numerous, it's really no surprise here with the lackadaisical attitude that Mr. Morrison showed in his testimony, numerous, building violations that present a safety danger to the patrons. There was the exits were 2 rear egress doors had no surface bolts. The emergency lights were not lit in the front door. The front door egress was blocked. There was no food available for sale. Although this licensee is licensed as a tavern, it's not a restaurant. The fact that they're not serving food, further shows that they're really not too concerned with following the ABCL. And the licensee also had some liquor. It's called Jamaican Magnum Wine Tonic, which is was not purchased from an unauthorized source. The licensee admitted to Investigator Stravali that a friend of his from Jamaica brought it to him. Investigator Stravali found 31 bottles behind the bar in a refrigerator ready to be served to the customers. And he also found the 2 boxes where the 2 bottles came from in the back where it said export only on the box. The licensee failed to produce records justifying where he got these bottles from. So these are, he failed to produce records in connection with that. He's altered the premise. He's constructed a DJ booth. And also we received a Cognos Report, which is very useful for us in our cases, because many times, these special operations lieutenants are very busy, and it's very difficult for them to always track down each and every summons or violation that has been issued in connection with the licensed premise. But here, we actually worked with investigator Morales, Ephraim Morales, who's been so helpful to us. He works for the Patrol Bureau North office, and he actually just does these Cognos searches for us and is able to pull up immediately each and every summons that is issued, so that we're not having to hunt and peck with the special operations lieutenants. And through that Cognos search, I was able to find that there was actually another summons that was issued for unlicensed security guard on July 14th, 2017. So, it's clear from this that that premise is not being adequately supervised. Perhaps, there was an interaction with one of the employees leading to a shooting. Some of their employees are unlicensed. They're not fit to be helping this Mr. Morrison, who's already lackadaisical in supervising the premise. The licensee also has a very long history, so counsel's office felt that this was something that should be brought to the board's attention. It's very highly likely that the board probably would have maybe canceled the license on August 30th, but we felt that the situation is so dangerous now that we should bring this to your attention now, so that.
Well, and Council Marsico, I think the way that this is well put is, on top of the fact that within the last few weeks we've got somebody shooting a gun into the air outside the premises, on top of the fact that we have residents that are afraid to testify because this place is so bad, on top of that, we have untaxed liquor, we have extension of premises, we have a DJ booth, we have a history of problems here. And even in the case that's about to go before the members next week, it's my understanding that there was a point where there was 150 people in the street during a fight,
Yes.
where they had to call 8 to 9 cop cars in order to subdue the crowd over a period of, 30, 45 minutes?
Yes.
I mean, this place is operating completely outside the bounds of the ABCL, is
Yes.
my understanding.
Yes, counsel.
It's on for the 13th.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was the 30th.
Oh, September.
Yes,
Okay.
so that it would be operating a little longer than just next week.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
All right. I don't have any questions if you don't.
No, I don't.
You ready to vote then?
Yes.
Well, I do have one question. Is this licensee generally at the premises?
The interesting thing is he is, but he's like, hear no evil, see no evil. He never saw anything. He says he hides in the back room and things erupt in the front, and there was all these fights. He claims to not have witnessed any of these brawls, doesn't know anything about it, doesn't question his employees about what happened, just merely collects the summonses, and he's like a scrivener. He just forwards it on to his lawyer. That's his supervision.
And how long has this been licensed?
I believe
2012.
since 2012.
Okay. And the Jamaican Magnum wine tonic, do we even know if that's available in the United States?
I don't know.
I mean, commercially, legally.
I don't believe so. I don't believe so. I don't know for certain. Investigator Stravali said he found the boxes that said for export only in the rear room, and that the licensee admitted that it was a friend of his that bought them in Jamaica and brought them to him. So he clearly knew that they were not purchased from an unauthorized source.
Nothing else.
All right. Basically, for all the reasons outlined by Councilor Riano, I couldn't have said any better myself. I'll just add to it that there's $17,000 in fines for violations going back to 2012. This licensee has had to pay already. A weapon fired outside in the front premises, which is really all I really need to hear. Other safety violations. I've also read that police departments had to direct patrols to this premise when it's open, so it's a strain on their resources. So without a doubt, I vote to suspend this license.
I'm going to vote to suspend as well. If there's council raised the most recent violent incident, but the case that the ALJ sustained the police focal point lack of supervision charge also lays out numerous other violent incidents that occurred in or around this location, and it's obvious that this guy didn't do anything to change that even after he was charged and went to hearing. And lost he hadn't known he lost the point of the focal point or the supervision charge, but he obviously knew that violent incidents had occurred in or around the location, and he did nothing to change his operations. It's clear that these violent incidents are eventually going to lead to somebody getting seriously hurt, so I think that the public health, safety, and welfare demands that this license be summarily suspended.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Marsico.
Members, I have one more item, kind of miscellaneous item. There was a summary suspension order issued back in June. It hasn't been served yet. I would just ask that if you consider rescinding the summary without prejudice for the board to act again when it's appropriate.
Yeah, I'll vote to rescind the summary suspension order.
Based on your recommendation, I'll vote it as well.
With that, I don't have any other items, Chairman, Commissioner?
No, we're done. Thank you.
Thank you.